my name is Amanda Wolford, and my lesson is for third graders. It is using technology to explore key details in folktales. The Idaho standard is 3RCL5A. Describe details from stories from diverse cultures and explain how they support the central lesson and moral of the story. The digital literacy focus is evaluating digital texts, responsible online collaboration, and using online tools to share learning. The technology is Google Slides, Google Classroom, and Blooket. By the end of the lesson, students will be able to identify and describe key details from a digital folktale text, explain how these details support the central moral or theme of the story, use Google Slides to create and share a digital response, and demonstrate responsibility for digital participation by collaborating respectfully in an online platform. All right, materials, teacher-prepared Google Slides template shared on Google Classroom, digital reading of Rumpelstiltskin, and Blooket for review of the story elements. For the lesson procedure, there'll be an introduction, and then guided practice, which is the Rumpelstiltskin, and then pausing to talk about it as a class and thinking aloud. Then independent collaborative practice. So they're going to make a Google slide. They can do it together, like as a pair, or they can do independent work, whichever one they're comfortable with. And then we'll share the slides together as a class and discuss them. And then after that, there'll be a formative assessment on Blooket. There'll be questions that they can answer as a review. And then for closure, we're going to just go over what we learned about the morals. And then for assessments, the formative is the Blooket. Students will complete the quiz on Blooket, and the summative is completion of Google Slides with accurate detail and theme explanations. Digital literacy connections are students practice navigating digital platforms, Google Classroom, Google Slides, and Blooket. Students collaborate respectfully and share documents, and students evaluate online texts and use them responsibly for learning. For differentiation, I have provide sentence stems in Google Slides. For example, one key detail is blank because it shows blank. Also, I will offer an audio recording of the folktale for struggling readers, and I will allow advanced students to compare details from two different folktales. And then the online pedagogy practices are use interactive polls or chats for engagement, model digital citizenship, cite sources, and be respectful during online collaboration. And then also this lesson plans instruction for digital literacy by having students use tools responsibly. It applies technologies, Google Classroom, Google Slides, Blooket, in order to support mastery. It also applies online pedagogy by being interactive, collaborative, and accessibly, and having an accessible design. So my source on there is the idaho.gov with the Idaho State School Standards, and then I have that cited. And then, so yeah, I'll just share some of my lesson. Hey everyone, good morning class. Today we are going to read a fun story called Rumpelstiltskin. This lesson will help us be able to describe important details from a story and explain how the details help us find the moral of the story. And we'll also be practicing our digital literacy skills by reading an online story, working in Google Slides, and also doing a review on Blooket. And by the end of class, you'll be able to explain how details in Rumpelstiltskin help you figure out the moral of the story. As we listen to the story, I want you to watch for important details, things the characters do or say that seem connected to the moral of the story, or a lesson that you might learn from the story.
I have a daughter who is not only beautiful, but she can spin straw into gold.
I'm just going to pause here, and I want to think about this for a minute. The miller brags that his daughter can spin straw into gold. I feel like that's an important detail, and let's remember that and move on. But one thing about that is I notice is that it's going to start a problem. Keep an eye out for what the problem is.
The girl nodded yes.
Then in return for my work, you must promise me your firstborn child.
So I'm going to pause here And what happened is the girl has just promised her firstborn, her baby, to Rumpelstiltskin. This is another detail that we need to remember because it's going to come back later and we need to see how it affects the moral of the story and how it moves along the story. So let's watch out for that.
She turned and saw the same little man who had helped her spin straw into gold.
I'll take that babe, my queen,
He said, holding out his hands.
remember your promise to give me your firstborn child?
Pifflesnitz Hopewell Jones.
But it was none of these, as the queen well knew.
Now that we have listened to the story and gone over some of the important details, we're going to try and figure out from these details what the moral of the story is. So if everyone will please open up your Google Classroom, I have shared a template on there for Google Slides. So you're going to use the template and you're going to do 3 things. I have it all listed in Google Classroom, but the first thing you're going to do is you're going to write down one important detail from the story. Number 2, explain how the detail connects to the moral of the story. And number 3, just add like a little picture or art that goes along with the moral for the story. So, and that's on Google Classroom, and you're just going to use the template for Google Slides, and everyone's going to make one slide, and then we'll share them together as a class. So yeah, just open that up in Google Classroom, and then make your slide, and we'll share them. There's going to be a shared deck. So make sure you're being respectful to your classmates as well. Everyone has completed their slides. So let's share these as a class and go over them. So here's our first slide, Rumpelstiltskin. Here's our first one, important detail. The girl promises Rumpelstiltskin her firstborn child in exchange for spinning straw into gold. How this detail connects to the moral. This detail shows the theme of being careful with promises. The girl is desperate and made a deal without thinking about the consequences. This helps teach us that our choices and promises can have serious results. 3, think before you make a promise, and there's a picture of a baby. Perfect, because the girl promised Rumpelstiltskin the baby. Very good. All right, here's our next slide. Important detail. The miller lies to the king and says his daughter can spin straw into gold. How this detail connects to the moral. This detail shows the theme of honesty. The miller's lie causes trouble for his daughter and puts her in danger. It teaches us that being honest is better than trying to impress others. Telling the truth keeps us out of trouble. That's a great moral. Thank you for sharing that. Here's another good one. Important detail. The girl learns Rumpelstiltskin's name by sending a messenger who overhears him singing in the woods. How this detail connects to the moral. This detail shows the theme of clever thinking. The girl doesn't give up. She finds a smart solution to her problem. The story teaches that using your mind and thinking carefully can help you overcome challenges. And the moral is smart thinking helps solve problems. Oh, these are great. So we have some really good morals in here. Everyone did a wonderful job sharing. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for working so hard on your slides. I can tell you put a lot of effort into them and there was a lot of good morals. Now we're going to go to our Book It review, and the code will be up on the screen. So if everyone could join us, we are going to answer and do a review questions about what we have read about today. All right, everyone, this is what your Book It should look like. And here's the questions. What detail sets the main problem in motion in Rumpelstiltskin? Why is the promise of the firstborn an important detail? What theme or moral does the story Rumpelstiltskin teach us? True or false, the girl solves her problem by guessing Rumpelstiltskin's name. What does Rumpelstiltskin's demand for the firstborn child symbolize? Which of these details best supports the theme of greed? And what can we learn from the story of Rumpelstiltskin? So we're gonna go ahead and answer these on Book It. We have finished our Book It and our slides. I'm gonna have y'all go over to Google Classroom, and I have an assignment on there. And I would just like, so here's your Google Classroom. Here's your assignment. It's worth 50 points. Write about one important detail from the story. Explain how the detail connects to the moral of the story, and draw a picture depicting the detail. And then I also have the link right here for the story if you need to review it and listen to it again. Excellent work today, class. We practiced finding key details in Rumpelstiltskin. explained how they connected to the moral of the story, and we used Google Classroom and Google Slides to share our ideas and Bookit to review. And I just want to say thank you for your work today, and don't forget to do your assignment on Google Classroom, and thank you for all your participation.